107.1 Traffic Jam is on your radio. That is Maze featuring Frankie Beverly. Called that one Too Many Games. And we are on the People Power Show. Our guest today is Corey Smith, attorney Corey Smith, right?
That's correct.
Alrighty then. Kitty London.
For the people who are just tuning in, welcome to the People of Power Show. And this is where we highlight movers and shakers, CEOs, entrepreneurs, people who are doing big things in our area. And I'm so happy and honored to have Mr. Corey Smith in front of me. Criminal defense attorney, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's part of
it, right.
Right.
And you also do personal injury as well.
I do a little bit of personal injury, not a whole lot of it.
Okay.
But the other area I practice is education law with respect to assisting charter schools navigate the waters that they have to navigate in order to keep them afloat and to help them do what they do.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to get into that, definitely, because that's something new. We've had attorneys, like I said, on our show, but not a criminal attorney yet. So did you like to argue when you were a child? Like, what made you want to be a criminal attorney?
You know, it's I actually just talked about this on my timeline just recently. I actually wanted to go into the sciences as a young child. By the time I got to high school, having grown up right here in this small to medium-sized town, I'd never seen skyscrapers before. But so my first time going to Miami, I was amazed. And I decided I wanted to be an architect because I wanted to design buildings. And if not that, rockets had always interested me because if you grew up here in South Florida, anywhere in most of Florida, we went outside and saw the space shuttle launches and that kind of thing. So I always wanted to do those, one of those areas. But the math got to be a little too hard. And my mom was a legal secretary for one of the pioneers here in Palm Beach County, Haygood and Williams. If you remember, if you've been around here. My mom was their legal secretary for a number of years, so I was exposed to the law through them, and that's where I got my interest.
I'm very impressed with your biography, too. Morehouse graduate?
I am a Morehouse man, yes.
Also a Morehouse man? Okay. And also, too, you got your law degree from the University of Florida, UF?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm a Gator. As well, I have good choice, it being the flagship institution for this state. And they had a law school forum in Atlanta every year that our professor would take us to every year. And I met the dean there. He was an African American back then, and I made inroads with him. And by the time I applied, maybe a year or so after I graduated, I got in, and that's where I was fortunate enough to go.
Well, kudos to you, because a law degree is something very serious. Very serious, so kudos to you. But we are going to get into it. We're going to have people ask questions. If you have any questions, you can call in 561-508-1114, and we're also live. But yes, please take advantage, because to have a criminal, you got some stuff going on in the community that I want to address too. So
absolutely,
we'll do that.
You know, I'm just looking, across from me. Most people that comes in the studio don't know how to talk into a microphone, right? And I'm looking at Corey over there. He's really into this microphone, man. He's just like grabbing this thing like he's ready. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he follows instructions. When you tell you talk into the microphone, he's doing just that.
Up to that microphone, man, doing his thing.
That's what you guys told me to do.
I like that, man. I like that. All right, Traffic Jam is on your radio. We'll be back with some more Corey Jones. All you got to do is just keep
Corey
it right.
Jones?
Corey Jones. I'm sorry, Corey Smith.
That's okay. I'm an advocate for his cause as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Lord help me.
Let me put this paper in front of me, okay? Corey M. Smith. Okay, there you go.
Yes, sir.
Attorney Corey M. Smith.
You can just call me Corey. I
always did, right?
That's right.
Always did. In the meantime, we'll be right back.
You can tell it's a live show, people. Hey, you heard me where mess up, right? It wasn't me. You just, give him.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
It's happened before. People ask me that.
Yeah. You turn on the music a little bit, please. Thank you. Hey, everybody. If you're just joining in, the attorney is in the building, Mr. Corey Smith. I will not mess up like Beware, okay? I know this man's name. I've studied the paper. Okay, so we got a couple of, hey, Tracy, how are you? Okay, there we go.
And then they think she was my little sister.
Okay, so she said, I see you, little brother.
What's up, Alex?
Alex K, classmate. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we said hey to everybody. Hey, everybody who's watching. So if you're just tuning in, we got this man in the hot seat. Hey, April. Hey, Becca. Hey. So, we could talk about some things real quick because you did your intro, so they heard your intro. So I want to talk about some criminal questions.
Okay.
And please make sure you ask any questions that you need. If he can answer them, he will answer them. If he can't, he'll say he can't. But he's here for you all because you got to take advantage of this. Hey, Barbara Rodriguez, good evening, Kitty. Great opportunity for the community call. Okay. So, we get arrested. I've never been arrested. I just want to tell you that. I've not been arrested yet. And it's not something that we normally plan for, just like getting in a car accident. We don't plan for things to happen, unfortunately. And we had our Bell's Bondsman lady on here. Hey, Trey Poole, we have her on there as well. But, the common myths of when you get it, of course, you're pretty much assigned. Usually, if you do not have an attorney already, you're pretty much assigned to a public defender. And Mr. Smith was a public defender, so he can really answer this question. He worked on both sides, and now he has his own practice. Kudos to you. I can't afford an attorney, right? As far as this. So I get an attorney. Is it best to allow a public defender, because they're going to do their job anyway, as far as doing the legwork. But then if I come across some great money or people to help me, then I go hire a private attorney to kind of let them do the legwork, so to speak, right before trial. And then, because I feel like attorneys like you are going to give me one-on-one attention, because when it comes to a public attorney, they're filled. You have a big workload.
So you're asking whether or not it's good to go with a public defender at the outset,
at first, and
until letting it go until they're going to work it out,
reach some funding,
and then if they don't, is it better to go private? It's a matter of that's a loaded question, because the public defender's office is a great office. One of the reasons I became a public defender here is because Palm Beach County's the reputation of the public defender's office back then was known nationwide, and it still is. You had people coming in from all over the country trying to be public defenders here in West Palm Beach, and I'm sitting here like, wow, I was born and raised here. So at the time when I decided that I wanted to go into criminal work, that you either go into the state attorney's office and be a prosecutor, or you be a public defender. I decided I wanted to be a public defender because I interned here for a couple summers. Actually, all 3 summers that I was in law school, and it's a mixed bag, and that's the thing. It's kind of the luck of the draw. You may get a career public defender who's dedicated to his or her clients, who will do the best job for you that's humanly possible. Then again, you may get somebody who just knows that they're there for a year or two, and they're using it as a stepping stone to move on, to further their career, and they may not care as much about cases. And a lot of times that happens, so that you may or may not get a good attorney. But one thing I will say, all public defenders are attorneys.
Right.
That's a huge misconception especially in our community. They had to pass the bar just like any other attorney, and a lot of times they actually have access to some resources that may not be available to others. If you don't have the financial resources to hire an investigator, or if you got DNA issues, you may need to get an expert to analyze DNA evidence, because a lot of times, even though DNA evidence comes back, and if it comes back to you, you still want an expert to look at that,
right?
Because it becomes possible testimony at a trial. So it's just kind of the luck of the draw. Me personally, I would want a private attorney
from the start,
from the outset, because this is the thing. I've taken over cases from the public defender's office, and it's.
She said, so tell me, I was incarcerated wrongfully, may I add. I have been home almost 8 years, and I'm still fighting to get my civil rights restored. Why is it such a fight? I have not been
in any more trouble.
Yeah, I have not been in here wrongfully. Put a black mark on my name.
Oh my
what
gosh.
Can I do?
First time non-violent and scored, had 23 points, and you did 8 years. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that happened to you. That unfortunately, is the story of a lot of people. I can't, 8 years and you only had 23 points. That's mind-boggling. And unfortunately, like I said, that happens. That does happen. So you got to make sure when you get in the system. I don't know the facts of your case. I don't know what happened that led to you getting 8 years on a nonviolent crime. You probably had a conglomeration of bad factors. You got a bad prosecutor, a bad judge, and a poor lawyer. And those things, sometimes those things do conspire and happen to you. I've seen that happen before. And listen, I can't sit here and say every case I've ever done, I've done the greatest job. Nobody's done the greatest job of everything they've ever done. We've all made mistakes. But that kind of thing, is just terrible. Now, to answer your question about what can you do, well, unfortunately, you have to petition up to Rick Scott's office up in Tallahassee, because they're they run the committee that determines whether or not people get their civil rights back. It goes to the governor's office, and that's a political and we can talk about that too.
Right.
That has to do with politics, and that's why people get disillusioned with voting, and voting doesn't count, voting doesn't matter. But it matters because even though Charlie Crystal was a Republican, one of the good things he did do is streamline the process for ex-felons to get their civil rights back. He made it so that it's automatic, even though it wasn't automatic,
right.
But it was a streamlined process, and a lot of people got their civil rights back. We didn't vote. Rick Scott got in office, and he immediately revoked that, because ex-felons, as is widely known, tend to vote Democrat. So politics plays a role. Public policy plays a role in everything that we do. So that's why if you see me on Facebook talking politics all the time, and if you engage me in personal conversation, I'm always talking politics. That's one of the reasons why. So unfortunately, right now we're living in a time where Rick Scott's in office, and you got to petition his office to get your civil rights back. So, and that's going to take more time.
Yeah, so she said the judge's daughter died from an overdose, conflicting issues. So it kind of maybe was kind of personal, like you said. Sometimes if you have a bad judge. Now we hear this. You're not. You're not. You're innocent until proven guilty. But it's kind of like you're guilty until proven innocent. And when I say that, meaning, you commit a crime, they arrest you, you're either not on bond, you can't get a bond, so you're kind of just held there until you go through the whole court process and things like that. So I'm just kind of questioning, like, as an attorney, how do you feel about that saying? Is it do you believe you're innocent until proven guilty when I'm in jail and I can't see my friends and family?
And it's nuanced. it's innocent until proven guilty is something that I do believe exists.
Okay.
It exists less for people of color, obviously. We all know that. I'd be I don't know what I'd be if I sat here and said that didn't apply, if that wasn't true. The thing is, though, and I tell people this all the time when I'm giving them just personal advice, just sitting around talking, you have the constitutional right to due process. You have the right to be tried by a jury of your peers if you're facing jail. Because some cases you don't. If you're not facing jail, you don't have a right to a jury. You only have a right to a trial before a judge. And a jury of your peers doesn't mean people who you know or people who look like you, or people your same age. It just means fellow citizens. That's what your peers mean. And 9 times out of 10, the people who show up for jury duty are people who, they live in Boca, Jupiter, Wellington, who have time to or ability to take off from their jobs and do their civic duty. So you kind of get what I'm saying when I say, you end up with a jury that might not understand some of the things that
you go through.
People of color or poor people go through, and therefore the system ends up biased towards against poor people and people of color. But what I was getting at was to say that I got a saying: you might end up beating the rap, but you can't beat the ride. And,
I get what you're saying.
And police know that. In other words, I'm walking down the street, I'm not bothering anybody. Some police officer harasses me because he suspects that I may have some drugs on me, and I may have drugs on me. But yet and still he illegally stops me and searches me. Now, eventually, that case may get thrown out. But I can't beat going to jail. I can't beat having to spend at least a night in jail and having to go into first appearances the next morning,
20 seconds.
where a judge may or may not give me a bond, and and you have to sit waiting,
Right.
to the next hearing. So I believe in it, but it's a tough system.
107.1 Traffic Jam is on your radio. We are back with the People of Power Show with some very important law information for you with Corey Smith.
Got it right.
Got it right. Got
He
it
was
right.
sweating over there, I can tell.
No, I got it in front of me now. I don't know where that Corey Jones thing came from, but
Well, you know what? It probably sticks out in your mind just because when you hear Corey, you think Jones because of that case has occupied our
And
community's
still-
conscience.
still open.
The last 2
and we're
years.
talking about law.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And we're still open. So for people that were on the radio that didn't hear us, we were talking about public defenders versus private attorneys. And, unfortunately, sometimes we get in trouble. It's not planned. We can't afford right now for a private attorney. But I was asking Mr. Smith, how does he feel about either or? And you can kind of answer that for the people that are listening
Well,
to you.
again, if it were me and you can afford it, I would research all private attorneys. Obviously, my advice is to go with somebody who understands your struggle, and who's going to take some personal care to meet your needs. The facts of every case is different, and sometimes hiring a private attorney can be cost prohibitive. If you call me with a murder case and you say, hey, I got $2,000 and that's all I have, well, that's not going to cover it. I mean, and the simple fact of the matter is if you're poor and indigent, then that's what the public defender's office is for. And on cases like those where they're very serious, they usually put more experienced attorneys on them. So it can be good in that sense. But if it's third-degree felony, maybe a second-degree felony where you might be looking at some time and you haven't been in much trouble before and you got a little bit of money in your pocket, it's great to go with a private attorney who can, again, pay some personal attention to what you need, because you don't want to get caught up, run the risk of being caught up as a number.
And we talked briefly when we said the saying is you're innocent until proven guilty, but it kind of seems like for people who get in trouble, they're guilty until proven innocent, because they'll either be, maybe on house arrest or they'll be behind bars until the case pretty much goes to trial. Now, for the people that was saying that maybe can't afford it, or sometimes, unfortunately, parents have to put up houses and do a lot of collateral just to afford attorney. Is it wise, or have you ever taken cases like that? Like, for example, they may be 6 months in and they had a public defender and you're like, hey, I can get the case, and you kind of just pick up where they left off?
Yeah,
that is an option.
I've done that before. Actually, years ago, I had a case assigned to me.
Okay.
When I was a conflict attorney. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, there's a list of attorneys who take conflict cases when the public defender has a conflict. They pay private attorneys to provide representation. I had to take a case from the public defender's office where the case had been pending for like 2 years. They had done all the legwork, as like you said, but the guy wanted a trial, and then it turned out they conflicted off, and they got me. And the judge set it for trial for the next week.
Okay. Wow.
I said, "You're
Well,
all right."
they were over that case at that
Oh,
time.
yeah,
They
he was
probably
tired.
had how many continuances?
Who knows? tens of them. And that story came to mind when you said that, because what had happened was we went to trial the next week, and I got him off.
Wow.
So, and the judge thought he was kind of. I know we're on here. The judge thought he was screwing the guy by setting us for trial the next week, because he knew I wasn't going to be ready. He knew I just got in
the
the
preparation
case.
was.
He knew I'd have to go through all the documents and try to figure out a defense, but we worked out, and
Okay, Superman.
well, that doesn't happen every time.
No, I know.
So your parents spent their money well. Let's just put it that way.
My student loans are spending it well, but my mom. But kudos to my parents. They did everything they could to put me through school, and I remain grateful for my mom and dad's sacrifice. They did everything they could for me.
Okay.
That's great.
We have time. We got some. Well, I want to ask you a real question. You said 2 years. and I know about the little court cases a little bit, but you get continuous. What keeps people keep asking for more time? And usually it's because they're trying to get people not to remember anything, or is it because they just hope that everybody forgets? Or
well, at the risk of telling defense strategies,
okay,
the further away in time you get away from an incident, the foggier the memory becomes. And that's just the truth. But you don't ask for continuances based on that. Most of the time is witness availability, and you need time to set depositions. And I had a prosecutor recently tell me she's not available for deposition for the next 2 months.
Wow. So
it's like, hey, my case, we're set for calendar call, which is the last court date before trial. We're set for calendar call like next week or next month, but you're not available for 2 months, and I have to take these depositions. So. You end up asking for a continuance, and the judge will grant it.
So they
and
forward
then
it to
sometimes,
them.
you just have the depots set, and the witnesses don't show. And a lot of times, those are cops. They don't show up, so you have to reschedule. And
I know that's a happy day sometimes when they don't show.
well, not really.
Really?
Well, because you want to lock them into their testimony.
Oh, okay, okay.
And that's what we use depositions for.
Okay.
So.
Okay. You
Alrighty
got some more
then.
questions?
Yeah.
I got some more questions.
Got some more questions?
I got some more questions.
Coming up next. All right. Traffic Jam is on your radio. In the meantime, in between time, we'll be right back with some more Corey Smith with some more good information, law information, and all that kind of good stuff, right?
That's correct.
All righty.
Oh, I thought that was my phone.
No, that's a loud speaker, loud
Those
headset.
are good headphones. I was going to say Bose.
Those are those over there.
These are the good ones.
Uh-oh. Okay, hold on. One
Uh-oh.
second.
No, I'm not running for office, Brother Harold.
Yeah, that was the question. Are you going to run for office?
I ran for city council in Riviera Beach 10 years ago. Look, my sister says yes. It kind of turned me off, that whole process. I've gotten, requests to do other things politically. At this time, I'm going through some personal things that I need to take care of before I get out there again. So right now, I'm not looking into running for any offices, but it's always been an itch for me. But at the same time,
you like getting some points. Your sister's like, yes.
As I said,
Alex Freeman says you should.
No, and she's sad. My sister's funny. Love you, sis.
It'll happen one day. Don't give up on him. It'll happen. He didn't say never. He just said not at this time.
No,
right now.
I was seriously contemplating running for not for the office that most people think I'm going to run for. But it was another position that I was going to run for. But I've kind of had to back off of, like I said, for personal reasons.
Okay. Well, we won't talk about that anymore because okay. So we were talking about the continuances for people. Well, I'm sure they heard it. I have a question, and I know a lot of times when you brought up like a murder case or whatever, you're defending. I'll just say I did it. I'm the person that did it. So you're defending me. Do you ever get clients who probably won't tell you everything, and that's the worst thing to not tell you?
Like every time.
Oh, but I mean, my life is on the line. You gotta know, you're like a doctor. You gotta know everything.
At the initial consultation that I had with most of my clients, one of the things I tell them is that, look,
You don't have to talk to the mic anymore.
oh, look, I'm your attorney. Everything you tell me is confidential, so you have to tell me the truth. We can deal with the truth, and then we can go from there. So if it's a situation, and I have a duty to zealously represent, clients, even if you have a duty to zealously represent them. So
you can turn down cases basically if you don't want to do it. Basically,
Oh, yeah,
just
absolutely.
based on what information you're
Oh,
given.
absolutely.
So okay.
absolutely, if something offends my conscience, like
Molester. I always put
the case that ran me out of the public defender's office was a case that, and I tell my friends this, I was assigned a guy who had been raping his daughter for like 9 years, but it had happened like years before, right? So the girl was an adult. She had, I don't know, gotten therapy, and this was like 15 years ago, so I don't remember the total specifics of it. But all I remember is that he had been raping his daughter. They finally were prosecuting him. She was uncooperative, meaning if she was going to be an uncooperative victim, that means they couldn't prove the case.
Right.
Which means that I have a duty to represent him and do that. Now, a lot of times people think that if the state doesn't have a victim, or if the person is unwilling to come to court,
They don't have a case.
that they don't have a case. But what they don't understand, is that prosecutors have a number of ways of making people come to court. And this is the first time
We learned that on Law and Order.
Yeah, that they will. If they have you on a subpoena is a court order. So if you disobey that court order by failing to show up, they can do what's called a rule to show cause, and it's a rule to show cause as to why you should not be held in contempt for not obeying that court order, meaning that subpoena. Most of the time they don't do it, but sometimes, and in this particular case, it was so serious that they had police at her house like all the time, and the young lady was actually calling me. And I'm nervous because that could be construed as witness tampering if she's calling me and I'm telling her things. So I would always have my secretary say, "Hey, he can't talk to you. Take a message or whatever." And then one day I actually did talk to her, and she was crying. She's like, "They're at my house. They won't leave me alone." And I'm like, "Well, ma'am, I can't tell you not to come to court. I can't tell you to come to court. You need to talk to the prosecutor." And she basically said that she wanted her dad to remain around for her 5-year-old little brother because he was a good dad to her brother, despite what he had done to her years before. Now, the reason why it ran me away is because he did it. I knew he did it. All the evidence said, and he said he did it.
So
right?
you knew.
And I knew it. And the deal on the table was for like 8 months in the county jail. Whereas any other person, you go into prison for 10 to 15 years. And I'm telling him, "Look, dude, you need to take these 8 months.
And see, I'm glad you said that.
And let's get out of here." Because I don't, let's not put her through this. If she comes forward and testifies, which they have her,
What was the nationality of that?
He's Hispanic.
Okay.
And I can't remember what country. They had her, so it wasn't a situation where I really could exploit it. They had her. It's just that she was calling me crying, going nuts about it. And I ended up making him, having a heart-to-heart with him. When I say making him, I said, we have a come to Jesus meeting. And say, "Hey, look, man, you either go into prison if they bring her in, and they're gonna bring her in, or you take these 8 months."
And I see that.
And so he took
lot.
it, but that experience
Right.
sat so bad with me. I was like, I got to get out of here. I can't for no money.
So the ones that, for example, are innocent. Let's say the ones that are innocent, but they have enough evidence to make them look like they did whatever. And you get these plea deals and say, "Hey," but they're like, "Man, I didn't do this. Like, I didn't rape her. I didn't do this. No DNA, no whatever." But it all comes down to the proof of whatever, the burden of proof. And you see a lot of people will take a plea just because of what they made, because they're like, "Oh, well, if you go to trial, you're facing 25. And if that jury that's probably not going to look like you thinks you're guilty, you're going to do 25. So let's take the 5. I know it's better, but it's better than 25.
Happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
Sad. Oh my God, that's so sad.
Happens every day. Every day in that courthouse that happens. And unfortunately, it's a result of a lot of things. We had back in '98, so the sentencing guidelines changed. Now I was just getting out of law school in '98. Actually, I graduated December '97, 20 years ago. This past week. But I can remember when I first started, all the lawyers in the PD's office were complaining about these new guidelines. Everybody was upset about it. Just because they were so much harsher. That's when the prison releasee reoffender law came out. That's when habitual violent felony offender came out. That's when all these
10-20 life.
That was a couple years later.
Okay.
But it can't. That's
horrible too.
They strengthened that as well. So what happens is that the sentencing guidelines are so strong that, for instance, one of the things you see a lot is you get convicted of a felony when you're young. You get through that, and you get in your 20s and 30s, and you own a gun. You're not supposed to have a gun.
You can never protect yourself ever again,
Right.
which so sucks.
Second Amendment's gone for you
forever.
And you have a gun because I've seen a couple cases where guys, they still live in neighborhoods where they feel like they need to protect
They need to
themselves,
protect themselves.
and they'll take the risk. Well, when they get caught with that gun, It's a 3-year minimum mandatory.
Mentor, and it's nothing that you can do no matter how good of an attorney you are.
Day for day, you got to go 3 years. So when you get popped with one of those,
you hear that, young guys? Please, young guys, old guys, yeah, that's serious. I know somebody that happened to. I know it's
it's
about
tough.
the mandate.
It happens all the time. All the time.
Nothing you can do. And they get mad at attorneys like that's a law, though. It's nothing you can do.
You can't get mad at me. That's
a minimum mandatory sentence.
I'm just the messenger.
Right.
You know, there's 3 years minimum mandatory day for day. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. And you know, when they have you over that barrel and they say, well, I'll give you a year in the county. You know, what do you tell your client? So, well, hey man, it wasn't my gun. It was in the passenger side, but you know, it's a constructive possession case. You know, it may or may not go your way, but if it doesn't go your way, you get those 3 years day for day. Or they got 8 months in the county on the table. You know, so you have to make a judgment call at that point. And a lot, like I said, it happens every day. People take deals that they know they probably shouldn't take because they don't want to run the risk of being hammered
in trial.
After trial, right. And some judges will hammer you after trial. They give out time like it's candy.
You said down like it's candy?
Oh my gosh. On Halloween.
Jesus. Oh my God.
What's up, Greg?
107.1 Traffic Jam is on your radio. That's the Whispers. Lost and Turn Out is what they call that one. Listen, don't forget it's all going down at Celebrity Restaurant and Lounge, New Year's Eve bash. That's going to be something that you don't want to miss. That's 1300 North Military Trail in West Palm Beach. The biggest New Year's party is going down. Yeah, Celebrity Restaurant and Lounge.
Celebrity Restaurant and Lounge, yes.
Absolutely. We're back with the People Power Show with Kitty London and Corey Smith.
Yeah, so we were talking about the minimum mandatories that a lot of men seem to be facing right now. If you have a felon, it doesn't matter if you're, 17, 18, 19, doesn't matter. 10 years down the line, you decide to be around a firearm, it's a 3-year minimum
3 years.
Mandatory, no matter how you want to cut it. So when you're riding around with your friends and they have a firearm, even if they have a permit, like say I have a felon and you have a permit, but we get pulled over by the cops for whatever reason, they do a search and they realize I'm a felon. Am I jammed up?
If your friend does the right thing, no.
Okay. Okay.
That's his gun. It's registered in his name. He's got it on him. Yeah. He's got a license. He should. That's not mine.
Okay, because I've always wondered that for people, for example, because I'm not saying a lot of females don't have felons, but a lot, it seems like more men do, for whatever reason, I don't know. But let's say as a woman, you wanted to, you want to have a firearm and you want to protect yourself, but your husband or your boyfriend, your son is a felon. And, he might hold your car. And you may have that firearm underneath the seat and he gets pulled over. You're done.
Seen that happen too.
That's bad, right?
It's horrible.
Okay.
It's horrible, but the sentencing guidelines are so harsh that they don't allow for that kind of leeway. In that situation, that's a case you have to prove that he is a constructive possession case, meaning that it had to be within one's area of control, and they had to prove that they had knowledge of the illicit nature of what was under the seat.
So this is when you have to call Corey Smith.
Right, call me. I charge though.
Look, it may be worth getting out that case, because go ahead, we will.
Now, I'm gonna put it this way: if I get caught in the car with Kitty London, right, and she had been to jail before, and on probation, right, and she has a gun in the car,
and she's a felon,
and
it's your gun,
and it's my gun.
Are you a felon?
Yeah, we both are.
You're both felons.
We both ride dirty.
She has a gun, right?
On her person?
Right. Who goes to jail?
Bye, kid.
Both of us.
No, you're going. If it's on you, then they can prove actual possession.
So you mean beware it gets off?
If you have the gun on you and it's his gun, and it's on you and the police find it on you, you can say, hey, this is his gun.
So when we pull over, I need to throw it in his lap.
He can do the wrong thing and say, hey, man, I didn't know nothing about it.
So you mean when the police pull us over and I see those blue lights, I need to throw the gun and beware the light. So I don't get it.
Well, what's interesting is that what they'll probably do in that situation is take the gun and test it for DNA.
Oh, so his fingerprints be on it too.
DNA.
No finger. Oh, DNA.
Yeah.
That's
they go further nowadays, and this is
wow.
They go
So what are you gonna do? Lick the gun?
deoxyribonucleic acid on you.
Wow. And that's why I'm glad you brought that up, because I used to hear people like, be careful of who you buy your guns from, your firearms from, because they can have things on them that you might not know, and you end up getting it. Let's say, for example, I'm a felon, I'm not supposed to do it. I buy a gun from my homeboy, but my homeboy done killed about 5 people.
Yeah, that gun might have bodies on it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's basically what I'm. So now, I'm not only a felon with a firearm, but now I'm an accessory to 5 murders I never knew about.
Yeah.
You can be connected to it now. They may not come get you for that, depending on whatever those investigations are, but you know, you don't want your name mixed up in it, period. So, yeah.
Oh,
Carry a knife.
It's a lot.
Carry a knife.
But that's still, but it doesn't hold those mandatory.
Right.
So if you, so okay, you hear that? If you're a felon,
take a knife with
taser, knife, bat. Just don't have a firearm.
No firearms.
No BB guns.
I can't, you know what? You stumped me just now.
Oh, good. I'm glad I stumped them.
There's some. There's some law about whether or not
it's gray area.
I don't think they do, but
it's not.
I'd have to remember to go back.
Okay, so if you're a felon and you want to protect yourself, do not have a firearm. That's all.
Period.
Just have
firearms.
A sword. Whatever. Just don't do that. Now, I wanted to talk to you because you said about the charter schools. Can you talk briefly about that? What you do as scores? Go ahead.
Just period?
Yeah, just period.
Quick bit of history. When I left the public defender's office, I went and worked with the school district here in Palm Beach County in their legal department. I actually did 2 stints there. In my second stint of 4 years, my now deceased, rest his soul, boss, Gerald Williams, who was my mom's boss back in the day, he assigned me to charter schools. And I said, what's a charter school? I don't know what a charter school is. He said, well, Corey, listen, you know, one day I want you to be in the running to be able to be chief counsel, and to be chief counsel, you got to know all aspects of education law. Charter schools are their own separate, quote unquote, school systems in and of themselves. So you have to learn all the aspects of education law to do them. So charters are sponsored by the local school district, and they're regulated by the local school district in conjunction with their contract and state law. So what I would do at the school district is to become acclimated with the charter law, the charter schools that we had, and made sure they abided by their contracts and other laws that applied to them. Obviously, when I left the school district back in 2011 this time, I said, hey, I know this law, so why not market myself to charter schools to help them avoid some of the pitfalls that may get them closed down, or to make sure that they're running up and above board by providing legal advice for them. So that's what I do.
Okay. So you have public, private, and then you have charter schools. Kind of like that's how it's broken up.
No. Charters are public schools.
Oh, charters are
period.
Public schools. Okay.
One of the first lines in the charter law is it says that charter schools are part of the public school system in Florida. They are public schools. They are just run by nonprofit boards.
Okay.
And nonprofit boards are obviously private. Now,
so that's like Inlet Grove?
Inlet Grove is a charter school.
Okay.
I sit on the board at Inlet Grove.
Okay.
I'm a member of that governing board.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You could beware.
Yeah. So, but
we've been in meetings together, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. You guys came over that time, right?
Right.
So Inlet Grove and South Tech, they're a different kind of charter school. They're what's called conversion charter schools. If you remember back in the day, Inlet Grove was where North Tech is.
Right.
Over on Garden Road up in Riviera. South Tech was down off of Congress and just south of Woolbright, which is actually where I taught school in between law school and undergrad. But anyway,
Wow.
they're conversion charters, meaning that you can take a regular public school, and if enough of the teachers and parents vote under certain circumstances, you can convert that school to a charter school. Now, it still remains a public school, but they get that building. They keep the teachers, but you can form your own governing board and run that school separately from the school district. That's what Inlet Grove and South Tech are.
Okay.
Actually, Boca tried to convert a few times when I was at the school district. Boca High, with the big artificial turf field, big pretty school, they tried to convert the charter at one point, but it didn't happen. So and there's a whole. We can go on for hours talking about charters.
Okay.
And there's a huge misconception in our community about charters and what they are. I'm an advocate for good charter schools. Now you have your mom and pop, say like me, Kitty, and B, where we can get together, start a governing board, file our articles of incorporation as a nonprofit, find somebody to write us an application, and do the finances and the governance, and put those plans in place and place an application to the school district to open a charter school. If it's legally sufficient, they have to grant it. If not, we got a right to appeal to the state. That's something that I do as
Principal Damon Ware.
But most charter schools in Florida are small, independently run, like what I just described. But you have these what you hear about in the news, these big box management companies that are out of state, and a lot of them are for-profit companies that come into state and they recruit. Say they recruit the three of us and say, hey, we want to start a charter school. We want you guys to be the governing board. We'll give you all the back office, but it's basically on loan, and the revenue you get from the kids, you got to pay us a percentage of that to run the school. And then they have a model that they try to that they implement. I'm not that particularly fond of those kinds of charters, and that's what you see all over Palm Beach County, and actually Florida. This whole state is, the big box management companies basically run the education policy in this state with respect to charters. The Imagines, not White Hat, they're gone out of Florida now. Academica, which is run out of Miami, and Charter Schools USA, which is what you see around here, all the Renaissance schools.
Yes.
That's Charter Schools USA. That's the big box company that runs those, that provides the back office and runs those schools. Some of them do a good job, some of them don't, but it becomes a numbers game for them. And that's part of what you hear, when you hear the negativity about charter schools. But, you have some really good ones like G-Star.
Oh, yeah.
G-Star School of the Arts is a charter school. It's
So I
a
think
great high school,
we should start
A-rated.
a DJ charter school to show us how to
Well,
show the kids how to.
one of the things that's been, a lot of people have been advocating and talking about for years is having an all-black male charter school, which you can do. You can cater charters to specific populations. It's never gotten off the ground. There have been attempts to do it, but just the right people haven't gotten together to get the business and the educational put together to get it done. I think it's still something that needs to be done.
Okay, that would be neat.
Alrighty then, People Power Show every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Special guest today, Corey Smith.
Now the school on we definitely like.
Yeah,
That's kind of like what
they're
you're
charter.
talking about.
Yeah, they're a small independent charter.
But aren't they backed by kind of big
Sean
corporations?
Combs started one in New York.
I don't know. Who they. I know they got turned down a couple times before they were finally granted one.
Why did the woman in Jacksonville go to? Oh, turn it down a little bit. You got a question. Why did the woman in Jacksonville go to prison for shooting the gun in the air? She was trying to protect herself from her husband. I can't remember her name.
I can't remember her name either, but that situation, from what I understand, they said that firing the gun at the time that she fired it, she wasn't in danger anymore, and that I think they charged her with assault with the firearm, and she did like 3 years or something like that. She eventually did get out, but she was in jail for a long time.
Yeah, she was. And it was kind of like after the whole Trayvon Martin
Was it
thing, where they made a big stink of it, and then they got that case got notoriety, and they went back to
Trayvon. Yeah, because it. I think that was an unfortunate case, but I'll be honest with you, I don't remember all the facts of the case. But from what I remember, that was the nuance that kind of sealed the deal for her. Unfortunately.
Are there any like things you want to? I don't know what we covered some things, but anything that you want to let people know, especially about like the new laws, especially for us, that we need to be aware of, like changes or what we need to know going to 2018. We already know if you have a felon, do not have a gun. Period. Knife, sword, mace, taser, bat. I don't know, knuckles, something, but do not have a firearm because it's a 3-year minimum mandatory. But is anything like that we kind of
nothing new?
Trump hasn't thought of anything yet. So.
yet?
Oh, I'm sure he's working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you, because these are myths, and every now and then on Facebook you'll see come get your record, the felony of your record expunged and things like that. Like, can you talk about that a little bit? And what can you get expunged? Yeah.
All right, that's another one. You're right. That's one of the misconceptions in our community, and it's not necessarily a misconception. It's just that sealing and expungements are governed by law.
Okay.
There's a list of certain crimes that you can never get sealed or expunged.
And no
matter if you only did it once or if you did it a million times.
Okay.
Now, it's I'm not going to say very difficult, but if you've been, a 10-time felon, you're not going to be able to get anything sealed or expunged, because the law basically says if you've been convicted of anything in your lifetime, anything outside of a traffic ticket or something, a non-criminal offense, then you can't petition to get your record sealed or expunged. So a lot of times I get a question about that. Say, hey man, I went to prison years ago. I turned my life around. I'm doing good, but this old record is keeping me from moving forward. Can I get it sealed? And somebody's told them, yeah, you can get it sealed. You can't get it sealed because you got convicted for it.
Gotcha.
And it has to be sealed for a certain period of time before you can actually get it expunged. So what you usually see are DUIs, misdemeanors, that kind of thing.
So no felonies can really get
felonies can get expunged if you don't get convicted for them. If you don't get a conviction for them, depending on what it is, and as long as it's not on the list, I can't remember what. But I venture to say that ag assault or ag battery, something really violent.
What I'm thinking is if
would be on the list.
And I may be dumb. I mean, as far as that, because I'm not, I don't know. But if you're not convicted, like, how do you get in trouble? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I haven't been convicted, it won't fall off. It'll just be kind of on there. It's
what it is what you're talking about is distinction between a withhold of adjudication and a conviction. A withhold is illegal, but what it says is that the court withholds adjudication, which means that you don't get adjudicated. So we resolve the case without you having been adjudicated. Okay. Now you have to give something for that. Normally that's probation.
Gotcha.
Normally they put you on probation for a number of years. You got to satisfy general conditions of probation, then specific conditions of probation.
What are Corey's thoughts about the 3 strikes?
Those are my thoughts. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's and a lot of times, hey Sabrina, how you doing? Sorry.
No, go ahead. That's it for you. No, that's fine.
Unfortunately, you got to stay away from it. I tell people all the time, look, they put a bear trap in your neighborhood. Don't go step in the bear trap because your leg's going to get cut off. So, they put those, 3 times, PRR, prison releasee reoffender, that's a big one. That's another one that happens. If you get out of prison and within a certain period of time you commit a certain type of crime, like another violent felony, out the door, you're going for the max. No plea, no nothing. Well, you can plead, but the judge has to sentence you to the max if it's a certain crime.
And it depends
what's the time limit on that, though?
Hey, Dr. Adam Ramsey.
I think it's 3 years.
He's giving you a shout out. But it's funny because, like, if
Ramsey, how you doing?
If you ever, and I mean, I may just be bored, but sometimes I look up people's, like, their sentences, and it's
Nosy.
No, not nosy. No, it's education, because it's funny how 3 people can have the same thing. Aggravated assault with a firearm. Let's just say that's a popular one. And each of those people, somebody might have 15 years for it, somebody might have 5, and somebody might have 3. I'm like, well, what happened? Like, did they, like you said,
it depends on what
the
the record is.
Well, the jury, and the prosecutor.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get a prosecutor who, self-plug here. I've been around a long time. I know most of the prosecutors over there.
No, plug you.
And a lot of the judges, we came out together, so I kind of know them now. So not that helps, but at the same time, a familiar face can't hurt.
It kind of does help.
Especially if you're trying to get a continuance or whatever, and we worked together back in the day or whatever. They say, okay, Mr. Smith, you come back, but don't try me. I wouldn't dare, do certain things. But point being,
No, you can have 3 people, same
crime, but their records may play a difference in it. Because if you got, I'm trying to think, what crime would score you right below prison.
Let's go ahead and close out.
Okay.
15 seconds.
It,
then
it just
continue.
depends on the records. That's basically what it is.
Okay.
Traffic Jam 107.1. That's Robin Thicke. Call that one Magic. It's the People of Power show. It's time to close it out. Corey.
Yes, sir.
Kitty.
Yes, you're going to need some
question-
magic to get out some of these cases.
Yeah. But the question that you always end the show with.
Yes.
Go ahead. Do your
Okay,
thing.
well, two things I need to find out. One, we need to tell people where you're located. We haven't talked about that. So please
Okay.
give them your number. And if you get in trouble, call this number. What's your number?
561-249-0913.
249-0913. And that's Corey Smith. And you are located.
In the 500 Clear Lake building, that's 500 South Australian Avenue, Suite 600.
Okay, so call Corey. Don't call Tyrone. If you get in trouble, call Corey Smith. Okay, because he has a lot of knowledge for you. I always ask people of power, you obviously have some power because you're here. So
I appreciate that.
what superpower would you give away if you could give away anything to people right now? A superpower.
That's wow. A superpower.
Yes.
Like flight, strength,
Whatever you want to do. It's a power that you can give away.
that I can give away.
You can give away. What do you think people need right now?
Knowledge.
Okay.
Knowledge.
That's true. Because that gets you out of a
Now,
lot of
who's
it.
that? Knowledge is power.
Knowledge
You
is power.
can't get out of
How many of us say, had I known what I know now,
Oh
20
God,
years ago?
all us. that's the relationship,
Oh,
jobs,
yeah. Everything.
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 And that's the reason of the People Power show. Knowledge and power, right?
That's right. That's right.
Good answer.
I definitely appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come on.
Oh man, I swear we can have lawyers for like 2 hours. It just feel like the hour just.
Yeah, that went by quick.
But we still got a couple more questions, but we'll do it off air.
That's fine.
Okay.
You know I'm smiling because I still got people asking
No, you still
questions.
got time. Go
I still
ahead.
got people asking questions.
Still got a little time. Go ahead.
Okay,
Go to LaShawn in the middle of this question.
LaShawn. Okay, we have LaShawn, listener. What's your opinion on charging juveniles as adults?
That is one of the biggest school to prison pipeline issue that Palm Beach County, and I'm sorry for being a little choppy about it. Back during, I think it was Barry Christian's tenure as state attorney, we had the highest incident of juveniles charged as adult in the country.
Wow.
In the country. Guess who most of those juveniles were? Y'all cousins.
Oh well, we knew. Yeah, I ain't have to guess that.
You know,
I ain't have to put that hat.
You know, whereas, and I've seen cases, and it drove me crazy. Black kid comes in. I remember this like it was yesterday, and this is about 15 years ago. Black kid comes in. They robbed the undercover cop. And they were doing a drug deal. They robbed the cop. Black kid never been in trouble before. They offer him prison. White kid, same exact thing. Never been in trouble before. Decided to rob an undercover cop. Probation, second chance. Not charged as an adult. But, you know, and the thing is, if you're charged, to answer your question, I think it's one of the most cruel and harsh things that we can do is to punish children as adults for things that they do. Now, granted, you can get angry and emotional about it, about the things they do. I mean, look, my daughter's been a victim of what could be considered a crime before, and it bothered the heck out of me. But at the same time, you know, from a societal standpoint of how we treat our citizens, you know, children are still children. They're developing intellectually. Their minds aren't all the way there. The science is there that supports that, and they make decisions that aren't good. I mean, we know that. I mean, how many guys and gals you know that, you know, 20 years ago when we were kids, they did some crazy things.
Yeah.
But-
They just didn't get caught. I say everybody's under crime. They just haven't
Oh,
got
gosh.
caught. Just haven't got caught. That's mainly the difference.
Listen, I always tell stories about the things that went on when I was in college.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I believe in second chances, because had I gotten caught doing some of the things that I was doing, and I wasn't running around selling drugs and killing people and that kind of thing.
Right.
But, you know, on the revolutionary side, you know, the crazy thoughts and things that you thought about doing because you learned about the system and you learned about, you know, all the things that are wrong with the world, and being a kid, you're idealistic. And you want to fix those things. So, you know, it's just, like I said, one of the cruelest things that we can do as human beings is to charge children as adults, and that follows them for the rest of their lives. And it ruins their lives completely.
So children, when you're listening, just You know, be mindful of the things that you do. I know, you know, it's hard to say that, but we got a company that we keep. It plays a big, I see it all the time. Like you said, 14 years old.
I tell my son that. I got a 16-year-old son. I tell him that all the time.
Yeah.
When I, you know,
We're losing them.
Yeah.
We're losing them.
You are who you hang out with. You really are.
Well, Sean, he said, thank you. We actually have some more questions. I know B-Ray's going to run me off this show today. Oh, we can keep going? Oh, good. Okay.
Let's roll.
One more question.
20 seconds.
We got 20 seconds. Really? Okay. Thank you. They say, awesome session. Beware. Keep doing your thing for the community. Thank you. We're getting thank yous. And we got a couple more questions. But you will also be able to go back online and answer some of these questions as well, too, from the Facebook feed.
Okay. You know what? To add on to that about charging juveniles as adults, that's a political issue as well.
Okay.
Back to politics. State attorneys are elected.
Okay.
If
State
that's
attorneys
something
are elected.
If
So
we make that an issue, sorry to bang on the table. We make that an issue and make our votes contingent on doing certain things, we can get things done. But it's political. It's political as well. So again, knowledge. You have to know.
get out there and vote. Know who you're voting for in those chairs.
Traffic Jam, 107.1, People Power Show.
What can we do as a community to change the pipeline to prison? But I guess that answered the question about the voting.
Vote. Stay involved with your kids' education. I mean, get informed as to you know, what your kid needs. You know, it's really an individual decision when you're getting involved with your kids' education, because, you know, a lot of times we drop our kids off to school and we think, you know, they know what they're doing over there. Just follow what they're doing. Your kid will be all right. A lot of times that's not true. You know, I have 3 sons and 1 daughter, and one of the things that you got to understand is that education is run, and I'm not saying that people can't be dispassionate and fair and balanced. But the truth of the matter is that education in the elementary years is run by what? About 70-80% white women that are under the age of 30. And when they're in our communities trying to teach our kids, and they don't have an understanding of our children and some of our, you know, our cultural norms and even our cultural flaws, because we have those as well, you end up with, you know, kids that are 3rd, 4th, 5th grade doing things that when we were young was just called a fight. But in today's world, it's aggravated battery.
Oh yeah.
Or aggravated assault. Now again, like I said earlier, you know, my daughter got hurt at school by another kid, and as mad as I was about that, I wouldn't want to see the other kid prosecuted. You know, but sometimes, and having been in the school system as an attorney, I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things, in my first stint at the school district, they wanted a criminal lawyer, and that's why I got hired there. They wanted a criminal lawyer to preside over the student expulsion process, because most of the time, you know, kids were getting expelled from school because they were committing crimes on campus, which obviously we can't have that. But they wanted somebody with that kind of expertise to be able to review those cases and see if they were worthy of going forward, and then implement a system as to where, you know, they got due process. And due process in the school system is totally different from out here on the streets in the real world. But you know, that kind of thing is really important. And what I saw a lot is that for the most part, those kids that got into that serious trouble, their parents weren't involved. They just weren't. So the biggest thing you can do to stop the prison and pipeline problem is to get involved with your kids and get involved with those schools and demand. You got to demand that they educate your kid. You pay taxes for that. We all pay taxes for that. And that's you got to demand it. You have to demand it. So and then when it comes time for you know, it's political as well, because you have school board members who, you know, they're aware of the policies, and if it's a bad policy, you got to put political pressure on the school board member to change it. To say, hey, look, these things are disproportionately affecting our community. You're our representative. Do something about it, or show us that you're trying to do something about it, because even if it's just one person, you know, they may not be able to do as much because you got other votes that you got to deal with on the school board. And then it's also political through the state attorney's office, because they are the ones who actually make the decision to charge the kids as adults and then send them off to prison.
I got one question before we close, because I want to make sure I ask this. I forgot to ask this earlier. For people who, Darlene, you preach. Oh, no, a lot of times I see people that want house arrest because they kind of get a sense of freedom, even though you're kind of not free because you're still kind of in the guidelines. Is there any time that house arrest you wouldn't say that it's a good fit for people, like certain people?
Oh yeah. If you're not going to abide by the rules, don't do it. You're setting yourself up for problems. Now, house arrest happens at 2 times. It can be a sentence, meaning at the conclusion of your case, if you're sentenced to jail time and you get an agreement from the prosecutor and the judge that says you can serve your time at home on house arrest. If you're a good candidate and you're going to do it, then yes, it works because you get to go to work, you get to stay, you still support your family and pay your penance to society, which is, that's the the appropriate punishment. You can also be on house arrest pending the conclusion of your case, like as a form of pretrial release. Now, that gets tricky because, a lot of times guys think, hey, I'm on house arrest, I can go out here and do what I want to do. And that's not the case. So if you violate house arrest while your case is pending, what happens is that state does a motion to revoke your bond and your house arrest, and you sit in jail for the rest of the time that your case is pending.
We learned a lot from John Goodman about house arrest.
Yeah.
I've never seen a case like that before in life.
Oh, me neither. Me neither.
John Goodman was on house arrest for like
the whole
half a year.
The whole time, and I would see him on Clematis Street.
Yeah, I'm like
with his deputies surrounding him, and it took somebody. I was like, I don't know that judge. Who's that guy? Because usually, if it's a judge walking down the street during business hours, they might have a deputy too with him. This guy had like 3 deputies with him, and I didn't recognize him. So I'm like, who is this guy? And somebody said, well, that's John Goodman. I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
On house arrest, yeah. He was a poster child of what house arrest should be, but it is not, and that's why I asked that. I'm like, because I know a lot of people who get jammed up with house arrests because they end up violating.
Yeah, because what's supposed to happen is that you can't leave your house. People think, well, I was in the yard. That's not the house. And that GPS is laser accurate. You step out that door, and if you got the type of person monitoring you,
you get a chance to do something like that, and he can roam around like that, in the house, money.
Yeah, money, and he negotiated.
It ain't really helped that much. Now you got 16 years,
listen,
so
his lawyer
really
did a good job for him. Pre-trial, his lawyer did a good job for him. I got to give him credit for that. But again, like you said, the evidence was pretty bad for him. Oh, and that's a classic case of sometimes you can't buy your way out.
And he actually got more time than he did it. Another one thing is once you do an appeal, well, no, not appeal. Once you do a plea, you can't appeal.
For legal reason. That's why
30 days to withdraw your plea. Okay.
That's why the judge goes through that colloquy. It's called a plea colloquy, where he asks, "Are you doing this freely and voluntarily? Has anybody ever threatened you or promised you anything in addition to do this plea?" They ask you all those questions because if you turn around and say, "Hey, judge, I didn't know what I was doing," well, hey, we got it on tape that you understood what you were doing. You had all the advice that you needed, and your lawyer did everything you asked him to do. And they do that to make sure that your plea is freely and voluntarily given, which it must be by law, and that you had a full knowledge of what was going on when you made it or when you entered it. So, but there are legal reasons that you can have your plea overturned, but you got to do it within 30 days.
30 days. See why I love lawyers? Oh my God! Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. So come back, listen to what we all talked about. 16 years is not enough time for murder. He left that young man to die. That's
it's nuanced, Miss Sheely, just because that wasn't necessarily murder. It was like vehicular homicide or DUI manslaughter, one or the other. And the guidelines for it are different. I mean, they're different. You generally get about 10 to 15 years for those kinds of cases.
And they got him in civil. Yeah, they got him in civil.
Now, I did have a lady on a DUI manslaughter years ago. I almost called her name. I can't call her name out.
Great job, Corey.
But we worked out something for her, and because she was kind of guilty but not guilty at the same time as well. And we worked something out for her, and I saw her years later, and she thanked me. She thanked me profusely, and I actually felt a sense of reward from that because I think she had been working out at the fairgrounds, maybe had a beer or two an hour before she got off. Somebody walked in front of her car, and it was pitch black out there, and she hit the person. The person died. But all the evidence pointed to the fact that it was actually an accident. But
Right.
the fact that she had a couple of beers just kind of hurt her. So we worked something. I think she did like 2 years house arrest.
That's a deal.
Yeah.
Compared to what you could have, 16 years in prison.
I think she did like 2 years house arrest, if I remember that right. Yeah, I mean, this has been a long road. And listen, I don't listen. I'm not experienced as experienced as some of my colleagues. Some of my colleagues are in trial all the time, and you know, I applaud my fellow criminal defense attorneys. I applaud prosecutors for doing what they do. Because, you know, the bottom line, we all want safe communities.
Prosecutors, I think, have a little more easier than defense attorneys, and the reason why I said that is because
the police do all the work for you.
Well, no, not that, but just think about, like you said, sometimes you have to defend people who you know actually did it. So now you have to question yourself to say, can I really, you know,
Well, they're different.
take this case on?
It's different skill sets, and what they teach you in law school, or what they should teach you in law school, is that you have to be versatile enough to flip it and argue the exact opposite of what you're arguing. Now, a lot of people find that difficult, but the training that's what it is.
Right.
So you kind of get dispassionate about some of this stuff. It's like, how can you do that? How can you know that this guy's been out here selling drugs for 20 years and messing up the community and blah, 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 and you're sitting there and fight for him like you fight for him? It's like, well, because I could turn around on a dime and prosecute him. Just given a set of facts and you know, to meet a goal.
Flip it is a very important word. A lot of people don't know. Flip it is a good word. Very important. They teach you that in management too. You know how to take things and flip it, right?
Reverse it.
Reverse it, yeah.
Well, like you said, you have to, when you see those movies like, you know, with Nino Brown and stuff, and you have those, you know, the defendant, you like, you know, this dude is messing the whole community up, but guess what? He got paid real well to represent him, and he got him off.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and a lot of times they don't have as much on people as let's put it like this, you know, I grew up in a community where you knew where the drug houses were. We knew who they were, and I'm sure the police knew who they were. Whether or not they could catch them in the process to where they could get enough evidence to convict is a different story.
you welcome, LaShawn. She said, thank you all.
Thank you.
One thing I could never.
So we're going to close out. If you have any questions, you can still type under the video, and Mr. Smith will be able to answer them probably a little more thorough because you'll be typing. So
I charge for that.
Oh, he charged. Oh, well, this was the free advice. So you should have asked why he was free. Oops, my bad. See, People Power, we try to give you, you know, we try to help you out a little bit. Told people to chime in and ask you questions, but the ones that took advantage of it, kudos to you. Again, if you need any legal help, he's here. He's great.
Yeah, and even
You
if
know,
it's
we gotta keep
non-criminal, I know somebody who does, so
Okay.
or can at least point you in the right direction.
Okay, so real quick, everything that you do criminal?
Criminal defense, some personal injury, just, you know, small car accidents. I don't do the big ones, not yet at least.
Okay.
And education work specifically related to charter schools.
Okay. All right. So if you get locked up after the bondsman, call him.
Call me,
Corey Smith, call him. You want to, call him.
and you can hit me on the book too. That's fine.
Hopefully, I'll never have to call him, but if I do, I know who to call. I'm trying to listen to all these laws. I'm trying to keep my nose squeaky clean.
I tell people all the time, it might not be you, but we all got somebody.
Oh, yeah.
We all know
Well, how you
somebody.
think I know so much? I
Right.
got somebody.
Right. You know somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. But, yes, thank you for joining the People Power, and we'll be back next week. Same time, same place, different guests, of course. And thank you once again.
Thank you, A5.